Joining us now, though, on impeachment from the White House, Ole Miss grad, Hogan Gidley. Hogan, great to have you, man. Deputy Press Secretary. I got to give you a title. Deputy Press Secretary to President Trump, and also Deputy Communications Director. Hogan, great to have you, man.
It's great to be with you. I really always appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak out on behalf of this White House and this administration.
All right, so yesterday we got a couple of things happening on the impeachment front. Number one, Nancy Pelosi says, well, we're just not going to vote on impeachment. They're not going to vote on impeachment. I mean, what is the deal with this? Does it just go on in perpetuity without due process?
Well, it's so sad, but honestly, it goes to further what we've been saying all along, which is we were right about this. It's a sham. It's a scam. It's not a real impeachment. She wants to have it both ways. The House wants to keep pushing out subpoenas and keep conducting quote-unquote oversight, although I would argue that's now clearly overreach. At the same time, talking about an impeachment inquiry. Well, House rules dictate you have to vote on that before you can move forward with it. And I'll tell you what was so stark of a reality that sets in for the American people is when they come back from a 6-week vacation in the summer, another 2-week vacation after they were back in town for a few days, they come out of the gate not talking about USMCA and drug prices and guns and health care. No. They came out of the gate talking impeachment. This is the only thing that they are now pushing as a Democrat caucus. This is the agenda. It's not the agenda of the American people. It's their own political agenda to try and grab power back, even though they lost in 2016. They want to grab power back so badly, they'll continue lying to the American people saying we're conducting impeachment when they are not. They are going to continue to try and destroy this president without evidence to do so, just in an effort to win a 2020 election. You want to talk about campaign interference, look no further than Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats. And it's clear she has lost control of her caucus. But boy, does she still have control over the media. Do you watch these press conferences?
Yes.
She just dictates what questions she'll take and what she won't. And when she does talk about anything substantive, a couple of things on the plate of the House moving forward, it's just as she basically admitted, it's just lip service. Let's talk about a couple things people care about, but the real 99% of this is going to be about impeachment, something she wants to use to try and grab power back.
Okay, so look, here we are, 12 months in to their takeover. We have no action on USMCA that will benefit millions of Americans. No bill on infrastructure. No bill on stopping surprise billing. No bill on getting down pharmaceutical drug costs. So they're doing nothing. I mean, all they do is impeachment. And you've got, let me read you a quote yesterday from Representative Rashlida Tlaib from Detroit, who says that anybody that doesn't comply with the subpoena should be arrested, including the president. And she says, so what we're trying to figure out now is where do the D.C. police go and get them, and then what jail do we put them in? I mean, this is a serious discussion a congresswoman is having. What is going on with these people? Well, in fairness, nothing she says is serious. It's all fantasy. It's all made up, except when she's being seriously derogatory toward the Jewish people in her anti-Semitic comments. That being said, the president put out a really good tweet this morning, which basically said the really horrible news here is that the Democrats are giving no due process, no ability for us to interview witnesses, no ability for us to counter evidence with evidence, no ability for us to examine or cross-examine witnesses. But the good news is they literally have no case against the president. He has done nothing wrong. But it does shed light on the process. And the process here really should shock, appall, and put in fear, basically, many Americans, because
if you're pulled over for a traffic ticket, you're given, demanded, quite frankly, by the Constitution, simple due process. You get to confront the police officer who gave you the ticket. You get to question him or her if you'd like to. You get a trial that's public. Democrats are saying, no, we understand some people may get due process in this country, but not if you're Donald Trump. We're going to do everything in secret. We're going to do everything behind closed doors, and then we're going to have our staff leak out selective pieces of information out of context to try and smear the president. That's what's the most damaging here should be the most damaging and the most concerning to the American people. They have literally just said, if you're Donald Trump, you get no due process. That to me is probably the most egregious part. But as I've said on your show before, it's almost as though on the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden example, Democrats said, well, he's running for president, so you can't ask these questions. So the really two ways to get out of any potential criminal violation or criminal conviction is to just run for president, I guess, or be an illegal alien. Either way, those two prevent you from getting in trouble at all by the law.
Well, let me just ask you this. A historical precedent. The House of Representatives has never conducted an impeachment inquiry into a president without first voting to authorize it. Why does the Speaker Pelosi just have a vote? Vote on it.
Well, that's a question for her, but you just hit the nail on the head. You go back and the Democrats are saying, no. This happens in the Senate is where you get due process, where you get to question witnesses. That's not true. Precedent proves, whether it's Andrew Johnson, whether it's Bill Clinton, whether it's Richard Nixon, all of those presidents got due process in the House of Representatives. They got a vote over there to actually open an impeachment, and then the defendants, the presidents in this case, got to defend their case publicly for the people to see. But Democrats don't want that because they know Donald Trump has done nothing wrong. They lied about Russia collusion. They lied about Kavanaugh. They lied about a cover-up. They lied about a whistleblower. And now they're lying that this impeachment thing is absolutely real. But let's be clear. One of the most egregious offenders of this, as you well know, is Adam Schiff. How this person gets on television still with any credence or credibility, it just baffles my mind. This is a person who literally lied to the American people and to Congress multiple times, but most recently when he took his own demented, deranged words and tried to pass them off as the president's. If the conversation between President Zelensky and President Trump was so damning, then just read the transcript. It wasn't. He knew he couldn't push that on the American people, so he had to make up a lie. That's the kind of stuff we're dealing with that's the most dangerous over here.
All right, so there's no vote. There's no due process. I mean, look, at the very minimum, the Republicans, the ranking members of these committees should be able to sit in on the deposition. I mean, they're getting thrown out of the depositions. They can't even sit in. Matt Gaetz got thrown out the other day, and he's on the Judiciary Committee. They threw him out. They can't ask questions. They can't have a rebuttal. They can't do a follow-up. They can't subpoena. And so what is this? Like, what are they doing?
I have no idea, and I can't even begin to speak to what they're doing or the why. Well, no, that's not true. I can tell you why. Again, it's a power grab. That's all they want to do is try and get power back. They want to impose their radical agenda on the American people. And, you know, when you have a party, and if I'm Nancy Pelosi and I'm looking around to my caucus and I say, what do you guys want to talk about? And they say a Green New Deal, infanticide. We'd also like to talk about our anti-Semitic wing of our party. We'd also like to talk about open borders to make sure that we pay for the health care of people in this country who are here illegally and unlawfully. We're going to fine American citizens if they don't buy the health care that we force them to buy. But if you're here illegally, you get it free. If that's the agenda, I guess I could see why she'd move toward impeachment. The problem with that is it doesn't really help the country at all. It only goes to muddy the waters and take people's eye off the ball. And And look, the press is completely complicit and compliant with anything the Democrats want to say and or do. We've seen some egregious examples of fake news this week. ABC tried to pass off Kentucky as Syria, for example, with a video they put out. Those are the types of things, to me, again, that are dangerous. You've seen the video come out of CNN saying they wanted to take down the president, pretty much, that they wanted to focus on impeachment and impeachment alone. Well, everybody knew that. It's just interesting to see their higher-ups are actually giving the directive for the quote-unquote journalists to move in that direction. And I have to say, it does more than a disservice to journalism. It's dangerous on many levels. But it also shows you the way in which, if your boss, John Fredericks, tells you at the radio, hey, you really have to, every morning, you're going to need to talk about impeachment if you want to get ahead here. You've got to be really aggressive against the President of the United States if you want to get ahead here. That's the only way that this is going to work, is you have to do what I tell you to do. Then it's no wonder CNN proffers an opinion and pushes lies on the American people, because the business model is for them to succeed, they have to go after the president.
Well, look, I think that's playing out. And I want you to comment on, this is not campaign, so we're not going to go there. But polling numbers, we've got two polls on that, one by Fox and one by Scott Rasmussen. Hogan, Rasmussen's my guy. He's the polls that I read. I've known Scott for a long time. He's got a poll now that, like Fox, says 50% of U.S. voters want the president impeached and removed from office. Yet there's absolutely no evidence he did anything wrong. Where's the disconnect between the polling numbers and reality?
Again, if we want to go down the road of disconnect, there's a lot to be had out there. I just don't understand, the mentality of people out there who try to go after a man who not only is systematically, basically single-handedly, if you're being honest, without the help of Congress, turned this country around and lifted all the boats for all the communities of this great nation, economically, for sure, with jobs, things like that we haven't seen in this country in so long. An incredible trade deal with China. We're waiting to ink that and write down the details. But my goodness, 2 to 3 times as much billions of dollars, for example, of them buying our agriculture products. You've never seen anything like this before. The businessman mentality of Donald Trump to make one accomplishment, to get something done and then move on to something else and to keep moving forward. No one's seen anything like that in D.C. And you notice even in the debate last night and on television, they don't want to talk about the rise of the middle class. They've seen the wages go up for the first time in 35, 40 years. They don't want to talk about median incomes being highest level they've been. They don't want to talk about all of the incredible successes. They have to instead demagogue everyone who doesn't agree with them and then promise free giveaways when we all know free ain't free. Someone's got to pay for those things. So you've seen this start to turn a little bit. I think the American people are starting to wise up. And after this impeachment sham and the Russian witch hunt hoax, I think things are going to turn massively in the polling, because I think the American people are sick of it. But more than that, any red-blooded American accused of a crime without evidence and not given the chance to defend him or herself is going to backfire on the Democrats, because that's their strategy. If you're Donald Trump, they're just going to go after you with reckless abandon and not give you any opportunity to defend yourself, continue to lie, go on television and say, I have stone-cold evidence he's done something wrong, even when you didn't. And then when you get called on it, you just say, well, I guess I just had bad information. And, oh, shucks, well, let's just keep on moving forward, as the case with Mr. Brennan, for example. These are the types of things that begin to mount up in a big way to add to all of the policy successes of this president. You start to see the political ones mount up as well. I think it's going to be really good for Donald Trump moving forward.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, trucking the truth across America. Live today from your nation's capital, Washington, D.C., with Hogan Gidley from the White House. Hogan, Deputy Communications Director for the White House and Deputy Press Secretary for President Trump. Hogan, now we understand that there's going to be a number of other whistleblowers come out of the woodwork, I guess either on the same call or other calls. Stephen Miller was on Fox the other day, your colleague in the White House, and he had an interesting quotation. I want to get your take on it. He said, the federal civil service has been turned into a sword aimed at the heart of our democracy. What you have is a constitutional crisis created by an unelected fourth branch of government trying to take down a duly elected president in concert with radical Democrats like Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi. Now, like Miller, you're there every day. Is his comment accurate?
I love Miller. I work with him all the time. He works so hard for this president and this administration. And I have to tell you, he's spot on here because, the president and I talk often about leaks and things of that nature. But let's just put this in proper perspective. There are many people within the federal government that have the massive and precious responsibility of collecting and keeping quiet sensitive, secure, classified information. And we have seen time and time again that information, which directly impacts the national security of this nation, that could, in fact, directly impact American citizens at home and abroad, is beginning to routinely be released in a leaked format to members of the media. Now, that is dangerous on a million levels. And that's something to us here at the White House that we are most assuredly looking into and that we are concerned about, and most Americans should be. And for those who are doing the leaking, for those who are the ones, as Miller said, stabbing at the heart of democracy, their hatred for this president and their desire to overturn the election in 2016 is no reason to leak information. Neither is their ravenous appetite for popularity or some type of relevance to do these types of things. And also, it's the same with the Democrats. You can't run an impeachment inquiry simply because you don't like the president. That, I think, is where this whole thing is going. So whether you're in the bowels of the federal government somewhere, if you're high up in the federal government and you are taking this sensitive information and giving it over to reporters, this privileged information, that's a problem. But I will say one more thing about the Democrats. When they are doing these backdoor, closed-door, secret meetings with members of the administration and others in the federal government, they're not allowing them the proper safeguards of representation from the White House either, meaning a lot of the people they're talking to wouldn't be able to remember the classified information or the privileged information. And if they themselves release that to this committee, they are in danger. And Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi do not care that they're putting people in danger of violating those sacred pledges of classified information, or that they're breaking the law by releasing them. No, they don't want them to have those protections and safeguards because they can't remember all the information they've seen, whether it's classified or privileged over the course of the last 3 years. They're putting them in grave danger, and the sad part about that is they don't care. They just want to try and take down the president. That's what this is all about.
All right, we're almost out of time. Final question. Vice President Pence heading to Ankara, Turkey, to meet with Turkish officials on their offensive into Syria. What's the objective?
Well, look, we definitely want a ceasefire here. The president outlined a lot of things that the Turkish government had to pledge to do. It was protecting civilians, protecting the Christians especially, and other people in the region. Our president had a very difficult decision to make. Turkey let our president know he was moving in to attack the Kurds. We had 50 or so Americans that would have been caught in the crossfire. Obviously, our ally is the Kurds. Obviously, a NATO ally is Turkey. And we were in a tough spot. And the president said, I'm not going to leave 50 Americans to be slaughtered, by accident in the middle of a war that's been going on for 200-plus years. So he made the prudent decision to move our people out of harm's way. A lot of this has been mischaracterized, but the fact is we're sending a very top-level delegation with the Vice President, Secretary of State Pompeo, Ambassador O'Brien, the head of the NSC, plus Ambassador Jeffrey as well. And we want to end to this bloodshed. We want to end to this conflict, and that's what this is all about. Trying to bring change. And look, the president was clear. If Turkey oversteps a line here, and they have, then we're going to work to cripple their economy. We did that with the Pastor Brunson case. We got the desired result. Mm-hmm. The president wants to try and do that in this instance as well, and we'll see what happens.
That's going to be the final word. Hogan Gidley, I know you're out of time. Thank you for being with us, Hogan. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hogan live at the White House. John Fredericks Radio Network.